Hello, from pattern to tank top, a simple sewing journey. Well, you can see the pattern designed. I just use a a khaki, a brown paper that I purchased to wrap orders, and I have it as a roll, and I use it to design our pattern. And this is a tank top for myself. I have a minimalist wardrobe, and I'm sewing a tank top for myself. So I'm picking a green color here for the top, and that green can go with other pants as well for work. So, and a green has a red as a complementary color. So I'm using a red bias tape or bias strip, and those bias strip that you saw in the container, I when I cut fabric, the remaining fabric, I will, you know, cut those bias strips and have them there. And I like to cut it in bigger size so that I can fold later and cut it in two. So you can see we are attaching the top, and first I cut that top in bias as well. Sewing with, I will say, quilting cotton is 100% cotton, and I will say quilting cotton, it is a structured type of fabric. So therefore, I like to cut those garments for the top garment for in bias so that it can drip. So we cut that in a bias in the fabric. So we sew the shoulder seam, and now we sew the side seam. So now we are going to zigzag those edges, and again, using a regular sewing machine, I'm just going to change the 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 type of stitches to zigzag, and use that to zigzag the seams. And we just did the shoulder seams, and we'll do the side seams as well. Cutting those in bias technically is not going to unravel. However, I like to zigzag the seam so that it is strong as well. You just provide two seams for where we have those seams. So that is the structure, the steps that you'll go through to sew your clothes: the shoulder seam, the side seam, and this is a tank top. And I'm on my journey sewing my own garment. So we sew it and we put it on with the inside out so that we can see if we need to put some dots. I don't like to put dots in my clothing because I have a pear shape. I'm small at the top, at the chest level, and wider at my hip level. So therefore, I design my clothing in the same layout. I'm not trying to hide my shape, but I'm trying to show more of my shape. So I sew in that layout, and having a small chest and wider bottom, I don't really need a dot in my clothing. And I think that tend to be for people with a fuller chest. Therefore, because there is more fabric at the top, then putting that at the waist can, you can fold those excess in it. So in my clothing, I don't really see use for that. However, I tried that for one of my kids garment and it worked well for her because again she has a different shape compared to me. So I try to do the same thing for myself as well in here, and I know that if I have a dot in my clothing later, it's going to be the back, and it's going to be where I have this one in the armhole, uh, toward the um, from the armhole toward the apex. So I try to do it here because there is a little bit of give there, but at the end it's not really necessary because I feel like it was more of a hindrance in this instance than if I didn't insert it. But I'm going to wear that shirt a few times to see because a lot of time I see flaws in what I saw right away. But as I'm wearing it, washing it, wearing it, and the fabric is softening up, things that I thought was not good, I tend to like it later, and then I tend to find few flaws later that I will take note of to see how I can improve it in the next design. So after wearing this to work during the week, I wear it once and then I put it in my laundry bag. I have not washed it yet, but I noticed that it puffed off a little bit at the chest level, and I think it's due to the dots. So, and in my next design, I'm not going to put that dot there because I don't think it's necessary. And as you can see at the shoulder, I didn't really adjust the neckline there. I should have done that on the pattern, aligning the back and the front pattern and curve where they are joining at the neckline area so that I don't have that uh, bump up that I have there. But I didn't do it. So, and it was not really an issue by the time everything is done, but again it can be improved. In short, I'm just sharing those with you to just show it to you that I'm not perfect at sewing my clothes, but I'm sewing them, and the pants that I'm wearing there while I'm sewing that polka dot pants, I sew it myself. So yes, you don't need to be perfect, but what you are sewing could be good enough for you to be wearing as you are sewing more and more to improve it. Or it could just be something you wear at home, be your home clothes as you are continue to improve it. But thankfully, my sewing, what I'm sewing, are good enough that I can wear them to work. I'm the only one that knows the flaws on them. At least I think so. But yeah, so I'm working on that bias strip is 4 inches wide, and I'm thinking about cutting it in 2 to 2 inches wide. But I think still at the end the the bias strip was a little bit too wide, and I think I would prefer it to be a little bit smaller. In this design, I wanted the bonding not to be inside but to show on the outside so that I can color code the outfit. So that was the intention, using design fabric and then using a plain color for the binding, and I'm using a contrasting color here on it. It was intentional and it was a simple way to make that simple outfit to stand out. And I tend to choose my color in a way that they can complement the pants that I have. So it is a learning process, and sometimes fabrics that I want to sew for myself, I don't right away sew it when I'm designing my pattern, but then I keep using other fabric. But when I'm done sewing, it becomes a part of my wardrobe, and I will wear it when it's not really the final fabric that I want to use. For instance, I use this green instead of a brown because I noticed that fabrics, brown color or shade, different type of brown shade work um, work well with my skin tone. So again, that's something I discovered sewing for myself and wearing them and recording video content, and I noticed that you know those brown, they look better on me than the other color. But again, I have to try those colors to make that decision, or to come across that discovery. And those are things you are going to discover for yourself as you wear things. You see yourself in the mirror, you take picture of yourself, and you look at those pictures, that you notice that you look great in some colors more than others, and you just choose more and more of those colors that looks good on you. And I think it is a journey, and maybe at different stage of your life, different color might, you might prefer different colors on you as well. For instance, I'm in a stage that I'm leaning toward bold colors, so I use those plain color for my pants, and my top, I'm using floral color or design fabric for the top. And again, I want the pen to be able to go with other tops so that I can have a minimalist wardrobe. So right now we are working on the neckline. We bind the armhole, and we are working on the neckline. So the way I did it though for the armhole and the necklines, I started from the inside. The wrong side of the fabric is out, with the right side of the binding against it, and I'm sewing it. So the wrong side of the binding is showing up, because you can see a white chalk on it, and then I have the wrong side of the garment out as well. And now we are going to iron it and shift all of those things to the right side of the garment. And I like doing it that way, because when you are, where you are sewing is where you are seeing. So if you are sewing on the right side of the garment, you will be able to sew better that side that will be visible to others. While the inside of the garment, you might miss some areas as you are sewing that binding to finish it up. So we are going to finish that binding on the right side of the fabric, and right now the wrong side is still showing up, and the right side is inside right now. So we want to iron everything outward, away from the garment, and then we can fold it in. And I noticed it later that now with this garment, but when you iron and pin before you sew, your binding will set better. And I noticed that with another top that I work on later, after I work on this one, that make me think maybe moving forward I will be doing that. Now the way I'm ironing is a gray, but as I fold it down, I will pin it and iron it so that I can see all the adjustment. Is because those are closed. Where I'm going to sew is closed, so it's good to do that. There is no opening. And with this binding, I tend to, when I start sewing that binding, I will fold the end down a little bit, and then as I sew all around, the other end will go over where I started. And you can see it, that is where I folded and where I'm going to start sewing as well, so that I can keep those two ends together. And then I'll just sew on top of it on the right side of the fabric. So now that we are done, I like to put a binding at the end as well. With the fabric cut in bias, the bottom you can hem it, because again the pattern I tend to have like 1 inch toward the side of the hem, 1 inch above the hem level. I tend to make it straight there so that I can hem it easily. But I noticed that if you use bias strip at the end, is easy as well than just folding the end to hem it. Sometimes on the side it can crunch up. So here again I use the same principle. I started from the inside, having the inside out, and sew the the strip on it, and brought the right side out, and then fold the hem down and sew to finish it up. And I make the bottom being 4 inches wide binding strip, while I use 2 inches wide binding strip for the armhole and the neckline. But I still think the those can be a little bit smaller than that for the armhole and the neckline. But this is the tank top, and we can try it out and see how it fits us. And again, those um, dots at the armhole were not necessary. You can see how it poof off on the side, because again I gave it that shape and I didn't make it long enough, you know, um, down to make it easy to tuck in, but it can still be tucked in. So you can see, how it goes well with that black polka dot pants. Is a waistband pants, but man, I never have a pant easy to tuck shirt in until I start sewing mine. Because when I found if I buy a pant that is long enough, I'm 5 feet A, that is long enough, then it's wide at my waist, and it just does not fit me well. But sewing my own clothing is a change, so I can easily tuck it in without shame at all that I have a waistband pants. Again, I'm 48 years old with 3 kids, and I'm at a stage that my belly, I have a belly, and my weight fluctuates at the waistline. I have a high waist line, like halfway between my chest, my full bust, and my belly button is very high waist. So I tend to have my pants high, but I have belly, a little bit of belly, and having a, a waist, an elastic waistband pants makes it easy to have pants that fits me all the time when I put it on, when I'm bloated or when my belly is flat. So it works well for me, and I can tuck it in even when I'm wearing long sleeve shirt at work. I can tuck it in like that without anything on it. But when I'm wearing a tank top like this, I like to have a cardigan at the top, and that cardigan on top I didn't sew it. So those two pieces I sewed them myself, and the scrunchie as well. But the cardigan I didn't sew it, and I'm still going to learn to sew cardigan as well, so that I can have those 3 pieces. So thank you so much for watching, and you know is to inspire you that if you like to sew your own clothes, you can. I'm not perfect at it, and I'm going to continue sharing my journey with you. Thank you. I'm Afiavi Libreman, creator of Libreman Consulting LLC YouTube channel and ninasoap.com, our blog. On our channel and on our blog, we share different ways to save money and different ways to make money, to reach your financial independence, where you do not depend on your job to provide for your family. And sewing your own garment and or sewing a back to school clothing for your children is one way to save money. In my case, I'm saving money and I'm perfecting my skills because I sew to sell as well. And this video is brought to you by our online store label.com, where we sell our product that we sold to sell. Thank you for watching.